This corruption story we've been talking about, it has so many implications. We've been talking about, obviously, the Trump family. We've been talking about the international implications. But it also feels like a huge political vulnerability to me for Republicans around the country. And Democrats in really important races are starting to take full advantage of that. I just want to play a couple of the ads, and then we're going to talk about it after the break.
You aren't the problem. Neither are your fellow Americans. The problem is a corrupt and failing political system. The problem is that the people's elected representatives don't represent the people.
As governor, I'll bring back accountability and make jail mandatory for stealing tax dollars. You should never be in the dark about your tax money.
Very different ads, two different states, all about corruption. Okay, Ben. Just before the break, you and I have seen a lot of campaign ads. There's been good ones, there's bad ones. I played two of them. I mean, Rob Sanders running for governor in Iowa. Senator John Ossoff is obviously running for re-election in Georgia. Different states, some similarities, but it's interesting because they're both making corruption central to their message. What do you make of this argument kind of becoming increasingly central in a lot of these big races?
I think it should be the central message. And look, again, looking at not just this country, but other countries too, corruption is something that can unite left, right, and center. I mean, in Hungary, where Viktor Orban was just ousted after 16 years in power, what finally broke him was someone running a relentless campaign against him focused on corruption and building a coalition across, again, left, right, and center. Now, to take it to the United States, I think, Jen, what's really important here is not just pointing out the corruption that is hiding in plain sight. So it's not just saying, Trump got a plane. It's connecting it to the fact that the politicians in Washington aren't delivering on what you care about. So there's not like sometimes in Democratic politics, there's like a good government message, anti-corruption. And then over here, there's like a healthcare message. What Ossoff has done very well, I think, is say, look, the reason that your healthcare premiums are going up, the reason gas prices are going up, the reason that nobody in Washington seems to be doing anything to deal with affordability or the problems you care about is that they're too focused on enriching themselves and their cronies. So it's just one message, right? The corruption is at your expense. It's not just being angry that there's some rich politicians and oligarchs, padding their wallets. It's that they're literally doing that at your expense.
The making of the connection is so key here because it's when it's an academic exercise, it's important to talk about that and to talk to historians, but you got to connect it, to your point, to real people. Let me ask you just about, I was thinking about this morning because we had Graham Plattner on last night and also J.P. Cooney, very different backgrounds, had different sort of things to say about investigations. Graham Plattner said basically, I want there to be so many investigations it shuts down the functioning of the White House, right? That is certainly one approach, and a lot of people agree with him. There also may need, and you and I are very familiar with this, need to be a prioritization at some point, at least to begin with. How do you think if Democrats regain power in the House and maybe even the Senate, we'll see, it's looking more likely, they should prioritize that? Like, what are the things they should go after and focus on as it relates to corruption or anything else that you see as really requiring investigative work by Congress?
Well, yeah, look, I mean, there's something to what Graham Plattner is saying in the sense of, like, there's a danger to what Donald Trump is doing. Look at the Iran war. Look at how dangerous that is. And if you consider what a lame duck Trump presidency might be like, he won't go quietly, right? This Greenland may be back on the map, Canada, Panama Canal. There is going to be a need at a certain point, I think, to try to slow the gears down. However, I think in terms of focus, the fundamental corruption of the government itself, I think, is like, take the Pentagon, where they proposed a $1.5 trillion budget. How are decisions being made about what contracts are being given? Because that is, again, both corruption, but it's dangerous if you're giving billions of dollars in contracts to people and the Pentagon is buying systems that may not work or systems that are just there to enrich somebody. Or if you look at the corruption, how are decisions being made in Bobby Kennedy's, Health and Human Services Department? That implicates the direct health and interests of the American people. So I think you have to look at the parts of the government that are being corrupted themselves. So yes, I would love there to be investigations into kind of what Jared Kushner is up to and Steve Witkoff and people like that. But I think you also have to kind of look at the functioning of the U.S. government because you have to be the advocate for the American people. And one of the things I'd say, Jen, is that some of this is about what you can do in the last 2 years of Trump. Some of this is about creating a record while you can. Like like you want to make sure that you're sending a message, even if they don't comply with subpoenas. We're going to get whatever documents we can because we're not going to let this go. You know, we're gonna come back at this, and that's a warning sign to people on the way out the door to maybe not do further corruption because we're watching.
No question about it. The having a record, I think, is such an important part I haven't thought about nearly enough. And also the functioning of places like the Pentagon. I mean, the fact about these drone contracts to Sun, we don't know who else is competing for them. There's no transparency about anything. Yeah. Ben Rhodes, I could talk to you for hours, as you know. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you for breaking this down. You also have 2 amazing books that people, you have many amazing books, but After the Fall is the one that's like the most on the nose of this. If people haven't read it, they should read it. Read it this weekend. Get it on your Kindle, wherever you get your books. Thank you for being here. I always appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Jen.